On to 2012. The Avengers and The Dark Knight Rises. As one era continues with the first Avengers movie hitting the theaters, the curtain comes down on the Dark Knight trilogy with the definitive conclusion to the story that began in 2005 with Batman Begins. The Avengers show that a live action team up movie could be done, and with actors being able to carry the movie equally without the spotlight being taken off of anyone. Even though we were really there for Iron Man to act like a lovable ass.
It's Iron Man. What do you expect?
Yep. The Dark Knight Rises picks up 8 years from the events of The Dark Knight with a physically and mentally broken Bruce Wayne bearing the scars from his encounters with the Joker and Harvey Dent. With great supporting roles from an amazing performance from Michael Caine, a touching portrayal of Jim Gordon from Gary Oldman, and an astounding appearance by the very talented Joseph Gordon-Levitt. The Dark Knight Rises leaves a lasting impression on the cinematic industry as being one of the best Batman movies, if not one of the best comic book movies of all time. Who's got a few for 2012?
I got one, but it's not a stellar film. It's actually the end of a shit show of a franchise. The Twilight Saga. Can we acknowledge the fact that that's when it ended, and we're happy that it ended?
I find that franchise non-existent. But go ahead.
That's a name I haven't heard in quite some time.
You'll never find a hive of.
I'm still very upset with that franchise. I'm sorry.
You'll never
it
find
hurts me in so many ways.
You'll never find a hive of villainy more severe than here.
And girls.
It bothers me only because it butchered the freaking lore of vampires. It bothered me so much. And the fact that my sister actually likes those movies, it makes me cringe.
Oh, I read that Rami Malek was actually in one of these movies.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, I'm just glad it's over, and we can acknowledge the fact that it's over, even though people want to reboot that franchise, which I'm like, no. Can we just let it die?
Let's not say we did.
Let's move on.
Oh, I have a very controversial one.
Go on.
Django Unchained.
Oh, love that one.
Oh boy.
Yeah, me and my dad watched that New Year's Day 2013. I gotta say, holy shit. I mean, the performance that Leonardo DiCaprio put on, wow. He was into that role.
He actually stayed in character when he actually cut his hand open, when he slammed his hand right down onto the desk. That was his actual blood coming out, but he's just like, it's like, no, just stay in character. This will do it. And you had to feel for that extra where he was smearing his hand across her face. I'm like, I'd feel very uncomfortable at that point.
Yeah, I know, right? Okay, for people who don't know, I'm not really a fan of black oppression movies. I feel like for me that's a dying breed, especially with hood movies. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. But Quentin Tarantino accomplished. I enjoyed it. You kind of wish it was a real thing, but for what it was, it definitely took you back to a time. And I'm just gonna say that now. I'm just gonna say this now, hearing the N-word multiple times. It didn't make me cringe. I'm like, okay, I get it. This is part of the time. Please stop.
And then Quentin Tarantino was like, "No, I like being able to say the N-word."
Also, Blazing Saddles.
There's a movie that wouldn't get made today.
Oh no!
Oh my god!
I actually watched that. I think either last year or the year before, because one of the things Random likes to do, he likes just to have his sort of decompression month in December and just binge watches a whole bunch of movies. I sat down for the better half of Blazing Saddles, and I simply ended when the movie ended. I'm like, what the fuck? And
one question: will he do that this year?
probably. He has said he's actually going to watch Top Gun for the first time. I'm like, what? It's like, you're only just now getting around to that?
Well, admittedly, I haven't seen Top Gun yet either.
Yeah, but you're my right-hand man. I let that slide with you.
Plus, I'm like, what, like a half a decade younger than him?
Probably.
Anyway, to close it off, like, for me, Django Unchained definitely encapsulated how it felt to see finally how, thanks to a kind dentist but turned bounty hunter played brilliantly like Christoph Waltz, you have the badass slave turned bounty hunter played brilliantly like Jamie Foxx. It was possibly one of the best things you ever see, you know. So yeah, that was one of my favorites. And for dishonorable favorites, I gotta go with even though I have a guilty pleasure with the RZA's The Man with the Iron Fist.
Ooh, I
remember that one.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's guilty pleasure. It hasn't holds up as well, but fight scenes are pretty good. And let me tell you something, Dave Bautista, he can act.
Yeah. Did you have a few for 2012, Kaiju?
The only one I have for 2012 is The Avengers. And since, you just talked about it, I'll keep mine short once more. Now in the day, we live in a day and age where we see, superhero crossover movies all the time. And especially when you have movies that are attempting to build a cinematic universe of sorts. And however, it was such like a unique moment back in 2012 where we saw all these characters together on screen for the first time, and this was during a time where we had never seen anything like that.
Nope.
And because it hadn't been done before, you knew Marvel said, like, we cannot screw this up.
No.
We gotta knock it out of the park, and knock it out of the park they did. My biggest fear going into the Avengers back when I initially reviewed it as my very first theatrical movie review on YouTube.
Wow.
I mentioned that my biggest fear was that it was simply going to be the Iron Man show, because he was undoubtedly the most popular character with the most popular franchise at the time. But no, we ended up getting an equal balance of Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, Captain America, and even really good performances from the likes of Hawkeye, Black Widow, Maria Hill, and Nick Fury. And Agent Coulson as well for his last cinematic appearance. So I feel like this was a movie that was like it featured a number of firsts for the franchise and for cinema history, and it was this like 4-year buildup that perfectly encapsulated everything we enjoy about blockbusters, about superheroes, it's got pretty much everything you want out of a superhero crossover film. And like now it's potentially, admittedly, it's a very simple film, very simplistic, but it kept things simple yet clean. It was simple, straightforward, and to the point, far beyond the sort of like gigantic, massive clusterfuck of a film that I will admit I still heavily love. If you look at something like Avengers Endgame or Civil War, these ones are movies where Avengers Endgame, Avengers Age of Ultron, Infinity War, Civil War, these are all movies that are sort of like weighed down by tons and tons of continuity.
Oh yeah.
Where if you hadn't been keeping up with these franchises, you're fucked, essentially.
Simple as that, yeah.
But with the Avengers, again, it was simple enough that anyone can jump into it and just enjoy a good old romp of heroes coming together to fight a threat greater than any of them could ever tackle alone. Oh yeah, and I gotta mention, of course, Loki was, the hands down one of the best villains the MCU ever produced.
Oh yeah.
To the point where
everybody's favorite fangirl villain.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll always enjoy the Avengers to this day. and it'll always be one of the definitive superhero experiences for me.
Awesome.
Can I say a few things about that too?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, well, yeah, the Avengers is basically the reason why I started making YouTube videos. As a matter of fact, my first YouTube video is a reaction to or a review of the trailer for Avengers. So
Nice.
it's not my best film, my best video. It's basically in the dark. So it's but yeah, it's like I kind of in a way owe the Avengers my YouTube career, if you can call it that. But yeah, it's like it's the first film I ever saw twice in the movie theater, and I can't give it enough of that. It's like it's still one of my favorite films. I see the flaws, but it's still a good time.
The thing I find, even though this moment is just probably no more than 20 to 30 seconds long, Cap is getting whooped by Loki, and all of a sudden over the PA, Agent Romanoff, do you remember me? And and Iron Man just takes over the PA playing AC/DC Shoots a Thrill. And I'm like,
oh my god, that's my favorite part.
I just see him coming, and I'm like, I remember thinking at the time theater, damn it, Stark. But that's how
it was the perfect intro for him.
Yeah, and he stuck the landing as well.
It's a superhero landing. He did a superhero landing.
It's really bad on your news. They all do it.
But
the thing that sucks is that like ever since Deadpool came out, I can no longer see that cliche and not think about that line.
Yes, I know, right? It's in every movie.
And then he just follows up and goes, make a move, reindeer games. I'm like,
Oh my god.
And can we all agree that Puny God is the best scene in that movie?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It was so great. It was so great that you would even see it somewhat sort of referenced in other films like Dragon Ball Super Broly.
Yes, I love that.
The
Frieza got Loki'd.
The funniest one I've ever seen it used as a meme. Cast your mind back to the 2014 World Cup. They superimpose the German flag on Hulk's face and superimpose the Brazilian flag on Loki, and you just see Germany knocking Brazil out of the World Cup. I'm like,
oh yeah, I remember that.
That game was a massacre. I mean, when it got to say, 3-2, I thought, okay, that's then done. Then 4-2, 5-2, 6-2, 7-2. Crying out loud, even Oni was talking about this on Twitter. I'm like, okay then. Yeah, there's a joke about that game on Pornhub, but I'm not going to say that on there because even under an adult reference, no.
Yeah, we're still technically for kids. Putting air quotes on that.
Yeah. Whew.
Kids.
Now, my last and final movie, I will give it to Dredd.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
If anyone has ever watched the Sylvester Stallone classic, you know that it was campy but okay, but it definitely didn't follow much of the source material. Especially with the fact that in the comics, Judge Dredd never, ever take off his helmet.
Nope.
So with this said, just like the Raider Redemption has a pretty concise story. This time you have this vet and Judge Dredd, played brilliantly by Carl Urban.
Mm-hmm.
And he's set up with a rookie by the name of Judge Anderson, played by the ever so talented, beautiful Olivia Thirlby.
Yep.
And the thing about Anderson is she's a mutant that has telekinetic powers.
Yep.
So with her experience living in the boroughs, aka in Mega City 1, they team up to take out the most deadliest drug kingpin known to men, or should I say woman, in Madeline Madrigal, or Mama. Also played by the ever so deadly but beautiful Lena Headey.
Mm-hmm. Sarah Connor.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. She was in the Sarah Connor Chronicles.
Very underrated series, if you ask
Very.
me. If I say so myself. Sad it got canceled, but it's Fox. What do you say? Anyway, if check the action, it was shot brilliantly. Just the action scenes with the gun violence, and just the movie takes its twists and turns. It's a really fun movie overall, and I'm really sad that it didn't do well in the box office because, in all honesty, that movie was a cult classic. It did everything right for a comic book series.
We need Dredd 2.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. And for some unknown reason, it was being compared by the Ray Redemption because it kind of had the same setting. It's like in a tower run by a deadly drug kingpin. But look at it. Look at it. Dredd didn't have the bone crunching style of Penchak's a lot in it. Even though the action scenes of that movie itself was good, so I feel like both of them stood on its merit. So that said, those are the 3 movies I chose.
Okay.
What was it? Attack the Block, Raid Redemption, and Dredd. If you ever, for guys listening to chat, if you ever want to check it out, find it. It's really good movies for this decade, and it very encapsulates the action and innovativeness of this decade had to offer. So there you go.